Hey everybody, I am making a short little video here to explain or make the distinction across the 8 energy bodies from a Taoist perspective. You could consider this just as a more granular perspective of the idea of mind, body, and spirit. So this just gives us a little bit more resolution across the different aspects of what it is to be I or me or you, and how to essentially figure out where problems are. And I'm coming from a coaching conversation perspective. The idea would be that when a person has a realization or an insight, you can check in each of these areas and see whether you're getting a yes or a no. And as you can see at the bottom of here, if we do it in a sequence, we can also see where a person can be getting hung up. And so that can expose or highlight an area to work more deeply in a specific aspect of the person to free up what's kind of clogging up the system, if you will. And so what I did is not just outline the 8 areas, and I'm using the language carefully for labeling these as to make some distinctions. So obviously in a more orthodox manner, the languaging may be a little bit different. But again, I'm just drawing up distinctions and perspectives here. So I've referenced this before in some of my other conversations, that when we see an illustration that has all of these distinctly next to each other in one illustration, oftentimes what gets lost is the scale. So I've sort of outlined the scale here and what I would call the boundary conditions between them. And so this gives you an idea of the scale. And then I have the next line here is how we naturally think about these things and express them or articulate how we're feeling within them through our languaging. And then essentially the cause-effect relationship down here. So to just go over it very quickly, because I just want it to be a short video, and to give you just a broad general sense, I will of course do this in a much deeper sense in my coaching or even in the courses and stuff on the learning platform. But anyway, quick review and a quick overview, if you will. So you have your physical body, and I say that the boundary condition is skin and or objects. If you're used to using tools or an instrument as a musician or an artist, there's this strange sense. It's only alien if you're not used to this, but if you're used to this, you can get a very tactile sort of self-identification with things beyond your physical body, but physical objects that you're holding, let's say. And the conversational language is obviously your 5 senses, right? And this is where we get a sense of me if we're thinking cause and effect relationship. This is the separation. If you look over here, we got me, over here we got I, right? So sort of the is and ought conundrum, or the truth, or what do you call it, truth and value conundrum, the circumstance, if you will. And that's why I say that with these 2 arrows operating from the effect of the circumstance, operating from cause as a creator. So the second body, this would be your auric field or your aura. I labeled it etheric, right? And this can be inches to feet, depending on how much energy you're generating. And our languaging is that insight energy generating or depleting, right? Does it seem to suck energy away, or does it seem to generate energy, right? Light you up in the languaging of it, right? Then the third one is the emotional body. The etheric body can go inches to feet out, and we know that with specific cameras that can pick up on those wavelengths. The emotional body, you think in the scale of out into seeing the stars and galaxies, right? Your sense of awe out into those distances easily gives us that emotional spectrum of emotions, right? Angry, sad, happy, bored, awe, angry, upset, all of these types of things. There's lots of different wheels of emotions, spectrums of emotions out there. And then in the fourth body, we got mental, right? And this starts to encompass time and space, and even starts to get beyond time, normal time and space, right? When you think about a goal, one way to think about it being outside of normal time and space, if inside normal time and space you have cause and effect, when you have a goal that you want to achieve, you're actually reversing to the time stream, if you will, and saying that in the future I want to achieve this thing. And so now that's the cause, and the effect is how I act today. And so that in and of itself gets you outside of normal. This would be become the boundary layer of normal space and time. And that's your thoughts and your thinking. The fifth one is your intuitive or psychic body. And so this is your base perceptions, not just your five senses, but your deeper perceptions about what's going on. We talk about that, what does your gut say? Not your emotions, not your thoughts, but how do you feel in your gut, if you will? There's a lot of conversations around that, but that's the basic languaging that I'm targeting when I'm having conversations. That's in the intuitive area. Then this is where it gets really interesting. And if I flip from the fifth one out to the eighth one and say we got no boundary out here, and this is the divine or infinite intelligence or God, if you will, depending on your spiritual belief, and if this is a sense of the source creation, if you will, of everything, then what occurs here is really interesting. And I think this is where a lot of things can be exposed in coaching and can make it a more holistic approach. Is from a Taoist perspective, you have what's called the inferior person and the superior person. And it's not hierarchical with regard to status, if you will, but what we're talking about is a level of awareness and integration. And so the inferior person, we would call that isolation consciousness. The boundary condition between there is basically isolated by roles in life, right? You're a partner, you're a dad, you're a father or a son, or mother-daughter relationship, or professional relationships, or all of these types of things. So I call that roles in life. But then beneath that, you have a sense of feeling of attention and intentions, right? So your entire scope of awareness is covered more what we'd call the individual. That's the I. And I transcends any specific role, if you will, within life. And so this is the causative ego type of a aspect of a person. And in the seventh, we get to the awareness. And so a lot of times I see people getting hung up between these two distinctions. And of course, that cuts you off from having a clear conduit from down in the lower parts here to the upper parts. And so our normal languaging really gets us through up to the fifth and sixth easily. But the distinctions and clarifications between the sixth, seventh, and eighth really I find useful in doing coaching or one-on-one work, or spotting it even in my day-to-day relationships with other people, and see where a person can get hung up, where I can get hung up when I'm having conversations with people. If you're coming from the physical going up to, from 1 up to 8, that's different than coming from 8 and going down to 1. Cause and effect, right? And getting hung up in these, call them boundary layers, if you will, is where principles flip-flop, perspectives flip-flop. And, of course, there's all the reasons why you can have interruptions here. But the basic understanding here is energy flows where attention goes, and unimpeded energy gives you that capability to have your attention and intentions come to fruition, become manifest, if you will, in reality. And so there you go. I wanted to make this quick. Tried to make it a 5-minute video, but it ended up being twice that. So I'm not sure how I can cram this all into a much faster video, but I hope that's beneficial to you, and I hope it gives you a good overall perspective. It can also give you a little bit of an inkling into the way I interact with people, my perspective in helping serve people powerfully in coaching conversations and whatnot. And so there you go. Obviously, depending on where you're looking at this, you can give me feedback and how you think about it and all those sorts of things. Any questions, please don't hesitate to reach out to me and start a conversation. I'd love to hear what you think about it. Have a great day.